Well, welcome everybody to the DL webinar series. This is the very first session of this new initiative that we're starting. So we designed it as a meet and greet session to basically give you some information about the United States Distance Learning Association state chapter program, and also obviously to give you some information about this new DL webinar series initiative, some background on it, and how we see it moving forward. I thought it would be good to kind of start with a little bit of an introduction of myself and a little bit of my background. My name's Ken Kahn. I am the current chair of state chapters for the United States Distance Learning Association. I'm originally from a town right outside of Pittsburgh, PA, called Carnegie, and I moved down to a town that's southwest of Houston, Texas in 1998 to teach 5th grade. Those of you that are familiar with the Pennsylvania area, it's very hard to get a teaching job there, and so I knew I was going to have to move after graduation, and Texas was looking for teachers at the time, and so I packed up everything in my car and moved down to Texas for a teaching job. So as I started teaching, I got involved with instructional technology. Prior to that, I really wasn't into different types of technologies, but we had to get professional development hours. There were lots of sessions involving instructional technology, and I became interested in those types of things like the document cameras, projectors, smart boards, response systems, and things like that. I moved to a 6th grade campus a couple years after I had been in the district. And in 2001, this video conferencing equipment showed up in this large group instruction room we had in the campus. And so right away I was like, wow, what is this stuff? I want to know more about it. And so I basically kept bugging the technology department with asking for training, getting information about it, learning about it, and getting really excited about it. A couple years after that, I became the instructional technologist on that 6th grade campus that was supposed to be part of my time, and the other part of my time I was the distance learning coordinator for the district. And at that point, the distance learning was really just focused on the video conferencing, because what the district had done is they had put video conferencing equipment in all of the secondary campuses. So every secondary campus had a distance learning room and a mobile distance learning cart. And so I was basically kind of learning as I was going through things. There was nobody there before me. All this equipment was new. So at that same point, that's when I became involved in the Texas Distance Learning Association. My boss, the tech director, said, you know, I think you need to get more involved with this group. We had gone to their conference for the first time in 2003. So I was like, okay, yeah, definitely. When I went to the conference, I was excited because there were people. I actually met some other people that knew what I was, knew some of the struggles that I was going through. They had already either been through them or were also going through them and investigating them at the same time. So it was great. Well, the TXDLA had a leadership conference that fall in 2003. I went to that. And at that time, their membership was probably around 400 to 500 people. Well, at this leadership conference, there were probably only about 40 or 50 people. And they were the real active folks. They were, I think most, if not all, the board members were there, and then other people that were involved in various committees. So at that point, I'd gotten onto, after that workshop, I got onto their conference committee for their 2004 conference, and I was in charge of the marketing for that. And from there, I got involved with, they have regional groups in the Texas DLA because Texas is so large. They have these regional groups. I became a coordinator of the regional group there. And then I got elected president-elect of the TXDLA. And so I got to experience those types of leadership opportunities in my journey of distance learning. So in 2006, I left the district and took a position with an audiovisual integrator, basically doing the same types of things I was doing for the district, but more in a sales role for this company. And at that same time is when I got introduced to the United States Distance Learning Association. I was in the presidency for the TXDLA is a 3-year commitment. I was in my third year of that, and the USDLA was hosting a conference for the first time. I believe it was in Kansas City, that first one. And so a friend of mine who was also on the TXDLA board, we were like, hey, let's go check this group out. We had not had much contact with them. And so we went and checked it out, and basically made some really good relationships with some of those folks, like we had with the TXDLA folks. And so we became involved with them. We helped them with our next conference in 2007 that was in St. Louis, where they've continued to have conferences since then. And in 2009 is when I became the chair of the state chapters. And basically, my responsibility is helping the established state chapters, helping form state chapters, being that contact for state chapters, and also communicating that to the board. I serve on the board and am part of the executive committee that meets monthly. So that's basically the quick run through of my background and where we're at today. So I did want to give you some information about the USDLA State Chapter Program. And I do want to say, too, if you have any questions as we're going through there, if you want to either interrupt me or jump into the chat and throw a question in there, that'll work as well. So the USDLA State Chapter Program, I have a link right there. I don't think the links, are the links live in this, Jackie? If I put them in the presentation? Probably not, right? But well, anyways, if you do want a copy of this presentation after the session, I can make that available to you. I linked a lot of these graphics and things to the information that's online. So the USDLA State Chapter Program, obviously it lines up with the USDLA goals, making the chapters dedicated to distance learning leadership, advocacy, information, policy, recognition, partnerships, international relations, access, equality, and diversity. The state chapters are actually autonomous. They're not run by the USDLA. They're run as their own separate groups. It's just that collaboration and the support that the USDLA provides to the different state chapters. You can see at this point, I put this little map graphic together, and this is part of a flyer that we recently put together to give information about the USDLA State Chapter Program. But the states in green are the states that currently have established state chapters. Yellow are the states where there is interest or there are forming state chapters, and then the red are states where there's no current formation or no current information known about any type of forming chapter. The yellow and the red states, they do change periodically because sometimes we get somebody that contacts us and is interested in exploring the idea of forming a state chapter, and then they get taken in a different direction, or the responsibilities shift and things change, or they can't get any traction because obviously one person trying to form a state chapter, pretty difficult. You'd have to be a pretty unique person to be able to pull that off on your own. It usually takes at least a core group of people to do it. So that changes periodically. I usually I keep tabs on this. I meet with the established state chapters once a month, and I try to meet with the forming states at least once a quarter, once every 3 months. I try to have a meeting with them just to see where they're at, and if we haven't heard from them for a while, that's usually when we shift things around. But you can see we have about 25 states represented in the state chapter program. Some of these are combinations, like the Connecticut and New York is under one state chapter. Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Delaware are under a state chapter together. Trying to glance through here to see if I see any others. Our newest state chapter is the Upper Midwest chapter, and that's actually comprised of 4 states. It's North Dakota, South Dakota, Wisconsin, and Minnesota. And so that's one of our newest state chapters. Ohio is actually a very young state chapter, getting established really in the last 6 months. Colorado is one of the newer state chapters. I think they're in their 3rd year. So we do have a good representation. You might notice that there's one called federal government. There is a federal government DLA that is considered a state chapter, but really it's kind of nationwide. It just focuses on that the federal government group of folks. Forming state chapters, we have Arizona, California, Illinois, and Indiana. They're actually talking about collaborating and possibly forming one state chapter between those 2 states. And then we have Kentucky and New Mexico also forming. So all these other states that are listed down here in the unknown, like I said, those are states that there's currently nothing going on that at least we're aware of, or no communication has been received from those states. If you're part of those states and are interested, you can always contact me at kcon@usdla.org, and we can talk about getting something together, or we can even talk about connecting you in with maybe neighboring states. That's what a lot of people do that don't have a group in their state. So state chapter benefits. Why do people become state chapters? Why are people interested in forming state chapters? These are really the 8 benefits identified by the USDLA. One is the Washington policy emphasis in congressional relations. Basically, that's encapsulated with the USDLA has frequent policy forums where they provide a voice for that area. Global focus. The USDLA has a committee focused on connecting with other global distance learning entities. Eden is probably the biggest partnership that they have going right now. Gateway to USDLA and distance learning. On the USDLA website, there is a research center where there are different distance learning focused research reports listed. So that's a benefit that is at the USDLA website. International recognition. We do keep a state chapter webpage updated with the states, their presidents, and their contact information. Practitioners publications. The USDLA puts out frequent news alerts to the state chapters and the members for them to share with their membership. They just, I think today, they do a quarterly full news alert that has several different links in it. That went out today. Powerful network of business and industry leaders. To me, this is the biggest benefit of really any organization you get involved in. Like I was talking about the TXDLA, it's that networking piece. It's that piece where you go to a group of people that are doing similar things that you're doing or want to do, and to me that's the biggest benefit of all of this. So from a state chapter perspective, being able to talk to other people that are also struggling with some of the same challenges and seeing some of the successes that they're having, that's pretty powerful. But the TXDLA or the USDLA, they honor National Distance Learning Week each year. That's one of the events that is coming up. They host an annual conference every year, and every 2 years they do the IFWE conference, which is a Women in E-Learning conference that they do. Obviously, chapter support I had mentioned. We do monthly leadership sessions where we focus on specific topics related to developing state chapters and sharing information together. At the last 2 years at the conference, and we'll be continuing again at this conference, we've done a pre-conference workshop focused on specific state chapter topics. There's a state chapter manual that's actually now in the process of being updated. The last time it was updated was in 2005. But it's basically a step-by-step, here are the things that you need to know to put a state chapter together or improve your state chapter. USDLA also has their own social networking site called Connect. They'll promote state chapter events, and we do just-in-time stuff all the time where people contact me and say, How do I approach this? Do you have any examples of state chapter budgets? Do you have any examples of flyers that other state chapters are using? So we do that type of support all the time. And then even, last but not least, legal guidance. A lot of the forming state chapters, they'll be like, where do I even start to become a nonprofit? How do I become a 501c3? The USDLA can help with that guidance. They're not going to provide lawyers or anything like that, but they will guide you in what you need to do, who you need to contact. If you have a specific question, how do we fill out this particular form, they can help guide you in that direction. So I wanted to share some of the different state chapter events and highlight some of those. And again, these are all linked. I pretty much tried to link the state chapter or the logos to their websites, and then I tried to link the activity to that particular activity if they had a link for it. So some of the ones that are coming up, the Colorado DLA has a quarterly meeting coming up. The Oklahoma DLA, they actually partner with another organization to do several presentations at their conference. So instead of having their own conference, they're collaborating with another group. The USDLA has a President's Forum coming up in Washington, D.C. on October 8th. This is another interesting event. The Mid-South Distance Learning Conference is a collaborative conference between 3 different state chapters. Louisiana, Tennessee, and Arkansas DLA collaborate together. I think they do their collaborative conference every couple of years. And then on the off year, I think they do their own event. But they collaborate together to do this conference. That's coming up at the end of October in Memphis. The Texas Distance Learning Association has their Fall Leadership Workshop coming up. I had mentioned that's really where I got connected with them. They do basically a two and a half day workshop that focuses on leadership. Colorado DLA is hosting a similar event for the first time in November. I mentioned National Distance Learning Week earlier. A lot of the state chapters also do activities during National Distance Learning Week. This DL webinar series is going to have some different webinars going on during National Distance Learning Week as well that we'll talk about. Maryland DLA has a fall event that they're doing in November. Nebraska DLA in March has their annual conference. The TXDLA has their annual conference in April. They usually get, they're one of the bigger state chapters. They usually get between 600 to 800 people at their conference. It's very well put together if you ever have an opportunity to attend. Iowa DLA has a one-day conference that they partner with another organization as well to do to participate in the conference. I think they have like a track or they do some presentations. The USDLA has their conference in May. And did somebody have a question? All right. The USDLA has their conference in May. It's in St. Louis. And the last event that we have on the calendar right now is almost a complete year away. The federal government DLA, they partner with a group, the Interactive Learning Technologies Conference, and they provide the distance learning track for that conference. This is a collaboration they've had for years. They also hold their award ceremony there as well. And so they actually just went through that. They gave an update at the last state chapter meeting. So that's really the state chapters in a nutshell in the state chapter program. And again, if there's a chapter that you want to be connected with, or you don't have one in your area and you want suggestions on maybe starting one, or is there one that maybe I should look at partnering with, check out the website and or email me for more information. So the DL webinar series. So this actually has come together very quickly. It's started as a collaborative effort between the Colorado DLA and the Missouri DLA. They wanted to start this webinar series together and had copied me on the message. And when we started, discussing it over email, it was like, there's all the other state chapters that I've worked with, they either have tried to do webinar series or they want to do webinar series. And what it usually comes down to is, actually organizing it and getting it off the ground, and or providing continual content. And so we thought, well, maybe if we build that structure and we put some structure to it, we can all collaborate on that content together. So the idea is basically in a collaborative way, provide this as a benefit to our different memberships from state chapters, to attracting new members as well. So these are free webinars that aren't just closed in for the state chapter members. They're really open to anybody. And so it's a mechanism to give our members some benefit, and also to let people know we're out there and what our different state chapters are all about. The goal is to host at least one webinar a week. We kind of have a schedule put together, and I'll show you some of this information, but we're looking at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, and we even have a slot for Saturdays at 11 a.m. Eastern Time at this point to try that. So basically, within one of those time periods, our goal is to have at least one webinar a week. Hopefully, we will end up having more. And again, this is all free. This is a free service. What we're looking at is this kind of being, a clearinghouse for different types of webinars. The mechanism for the webinars, like today we're using Collaborate. It's up to you. I mean, if you have something that you have access to that you're comfortable with, that you want to use, you can use that. If you need something, like I didn't have something that I used, so the Missouri DLA said, well, we'll let you use our Collaborate for the session. So it's kind of, you can either bring your own and provide that information, or you can actually, we can actually give you something to use. Not only can you submit presentations and webinars to do on your own, but you can also let us know about different webinars. So if there's a particular webinar that you're going to attend that you find interesting, you can submit that information. So again, we kind of want to build this as, you go here, you look at the calendar, and not only do you see webinars that are being presented and submitted, but even webinars maybe companies are putting out there, or other universities or organizations that are putting out there. Let me take you to the website. So let me see. Let me grab the URL. So this is we basically put together this Google site, and when I say we, I do want to recognize Jackie Harris, who's the executive assistant with the Missouri DLA. She's been wonderful in helping us organize this information and set a lot of these things up. We would discuss them as a group, and then she would actually take it and just run with it. And so Jackie set up this Google site for us. And so everything that we've set up so far, we've just kind of used free resources that are out there. So you can see we're using to submit a webinar. Let me click on that. Did that pop-up come up, or are you guys seeing that pop up with the form? Maybe somebody can let me know in the chat or jump on the audio. Let's see. Wait, my chat didn't. No, you didn't see the pop-up. I wonder if there's a way for me to...
I'm not seeing the pop-up, Ken. I don't think anybody else is either.
Okay.
No, sometimes the application share works better than the application share works better than the web tour. Or here, click the Follow Me button up at the top, and that will, because it'll go to the static whatever page you initially set. So you have to click Follow Me to get it to port forward.
Okay, let me try that. So let me click on the Submit Webinar again, and it's a pop-up for me, so I bet you guys don't see it. But let me copy the address and paste that in here. That should take you to the form now. So when you click Submit a Webinar, it actually takes you to the submission page. Again, we used Google, so we did it. We set up a Google form. Jackie had one that she had used for a similar program in the past. That's what we started with as a draft, and we all reviewed it and added some information to it. And so now we have a Google form where people can use to fill in their information. You can see, you got your general name, presenter name, phone, organizational involvement. So like you want to highlight it's the university that you're representing, a distance learning organization, maybe it's a company that you're representing, the webinar topic, the description. Like I mentioned, do you have a delivery method or do you need one? We can provide one. Is there a set date for you to use? So we have a calendar. Excuse me. Let me see if I can. So we have a calendar. I'm not going to pull that pop-up. It's not a very good visual. Let me pull this one. We have a calendar that takes you to our Google Calendar that shows what's been, what has been scheduled so far. So you can just pick any date that doesn't conflict with somebody else's. We also have this set up. Let's see if this works. And this is kind of a table. Whoops. Let me paste this back in here again. See if. Okay. This is a table that we built with suggested dates and times. Like I told you, we want to try to have at least one a week. We set this up for that. But like say you look at it and say, you're like, okay, hey, that October 5th date looks good for me, but I don't want to do it at 11 a.m. Eastern. I want to do it at 10 a.m. Eastern. We're fine with that. We're obviously flexible with that. This is just to give us really a guide for here's the goal, to fill at least these spaces, to make sure we get one a week, and to give structure. Like if you're like, well, I don't, time, yeah, 11 a.m. Eastern on October 5th is fine with me. That's fine to do it then. I was just taking a look at the chat and seeing if I'm missing anything.
I got the chat covered. I'm good at that.
Okay, good. Thanks. I'm not good at paying attention to that. So we got the form there. Any additional notes? When you submit the form, it actually goes to an Excel spreadsheet for us. We all get a notification email that lets us know that somebody submitted content, and then we have a process for making sure it gets scheduled on the calendar, making sure a confirmation email is sent, and then we list it at this website. You can see we kind of have a list going that has a link to the session. We even put together an evaluation form to help us capture some of the information for the different sessions. Again, we just used a Google form for that. And another thing that we set up is a mail list. So we're using MailChimp for that. And periodically we are going to be sending out announcements reminding people about the DL webinar series and the upcoming events. And so if you want to share that information with your groups, like you're like, well, I have faculty that I want to share that with, or I want to share it with, on my social media, I want to tweet it out, or I want to post it on Facebook or LinkedIn. If you join the mail list, you'll get that information, and then you can either, copy that URL from it or forward that information on to continue to share out the information. I think I pretty much covered everything that I wanted to cover. We do plan on trying to have at least one member of the core team at the different webinars to help support and participate. And we're going to be doing our official kickoff during National Distance Learning Week. We have a couple sessions scheduled. And we figured we're starting now to work through things and kind of get a handle on the process and hopefully smooth things out, get some feedback from you guys, and hopefully do the plan on doing the official kickoff on National Distance Learning Week. So, I mean, any questions, comments about any of the information that was presented?
I just wanted to go ahead and reiterate that the session topics are pretty wide open. Obviously, we'd want to kind of focus most of the time on distance learning issues, pedagogy, instructional technology, those sort of things. But feel free to propose just any topic of interest, because we are about distance learning, and when you're engaged in distance learning, you're not just learning about distance learning. So any topic would be fine. We just want to share with the distance learning community opportunities that are available out there. So we hope to hear from all of you. Send in your suggestions. You can use that evaluation form if you don't want to specifically evaluate an individual session. If you just have an idea or you want to just say, hey, we'd like to see more of this or that, feel free to use the evaluation form, contact us, join our mailing list, share it with everybody you know. The more people we can reach, the more good we can do.
Yeah, right now we're really focused on, obviously getting the word out and making sure people know about these sessions. You can see we do have several sessions planned. Right before this session, we actually got another submission. So somebody had submitted to do one in January. So we have several webinars scheduled. And like Jackie said, we want them to focus on distance learning type topics. But anything is fine as well. We have some coming up that aren't exactly distance learning, but still sessions that you might be interested in taking a look at. So I guess if there aren't any other questions or comments, we can close things down on this session.
Thanks for joining us, everybody.
Thank you. And let me flip back to, I'm probably clicking on the wrong thing. How do I flip back to the presentation? There we go. So thanks for attending the meet and greet, and you can see our contact. I don't know if you can see it very well on this presentation, but if you go to the DL website, you can see our information there. You can contact me at kennethwconjr@gmail.com. If you email me at kcon@USDLA, it actually goes to that same email, so either one is fine. Thank you for attending, and hopefully we'll see you at some different webinars in the future.